In a far corner of the galaxy, there was a dark and cold place known as Unit 9. It did not look special from the outside. It was just a big black building on a lonely planet. But inside, something terrible was happening. The building was full of long halls, hot machines, and strange smells. Pipes hissed, doors opened with loud clicks. And deep underground, there were cells. These cells were full of living people. But they were not treated like people. They were called units. Dale was a human. He worked as a low-level technician. His job was simple: check energy levels, repair broken machines, and report problems. He was quiet, smart, and did not ask many questions. The aliens who ran Unit 9 liked him because he did his work fast and never caused trouble. Dale thought this place was a recycling center. That's what he was told. Old parts and machines were turned into energy. It made sense. The galaxy needed power, and Unit 9 sent power to many systems. But Dale began to feel something was wrong. Sometimes he saw cages, not for tools, but for living beings. Some looked like strange animals, others looked almost human. He asked once, "Why are there living creatures in the lower levels?" The alien in charge, a tall being with red eyes and no mouth, simply replied, "Do not look, do not ask." Dale stayed silent. One day, Dale was told to check the heat flow in Sector D, a place he had never visited. He walked past heavy doors and down deep stairs. The air became hotter. He wiped sweat from his face. He came to a room with glass walls. Inside, there were lines of people standing in silence. They wore torn clothes. Their heads were down. They were chained to the floor. Every few minutes, a door opened, and the first person in the line was taken away. Dale stood frozen. He saw something worse than machines. He saw people, humans, and behind the glass, a large machine hissed as it boiled something below it. His hands shook. "This is not a recycling center," he whispered to himself suddenly. Someone touched his hand. Dale looked down. A thin girl, with tangled hair and silver eyes, had reached through the bars. Her fingers were cold and shaking. She whispered one word, "Please." Dale's heart stopped. He stared at her. She was young, maybe 15 or 16. Her skin was pale. Her legs could barely hold her up. But her eyes were full of life and fear. "What's your name?" Dale whispered. The girl said, "Mira." Before he could say more, a loud alarm rang. The guards shouted. Dale quickly walked away, pretending nothing had happened. But his mind was spinning back in his small room. He could not sleep. He checked the system files. Sector D was marked non-sentient bio-units. That meant creatures with no mind, no feelings, no voice. But that was a lie. Mira had spoken. She had grabbed his hand. She had said, "Please." He opened more files. Each one was the same. Hundreds of units listed as things, not people. Many were from other small alien races. But a few, maybe 20, were human. Taken from colonies no one cared about. Forgotten. Dale looked at Mira's record. It said, "Human female, weak, unfit for labor, scheduled for boil down, 3 cycles." That meant in 3 days, she would be dead, turned into heat, burned for energy. His stomach turned. That night, Dale did something dangerous. He took extra food from the kitchen and went back to Sector D. The guards were few at night. He found a way through a vent and dropped down behind a wall. Mira was still there, now sitting on the floor. Her head was resting on her knees. He whispered, "Mira." She looked up, eyes wide. "I brought food," Dale said, passing a small pack through the bars. She grabbed it quickly, opening it with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "Where are you from?" Dale asked. "Colony 4. The one Earth forgot." He nodded. "I'm from Earth 2. I didn't know this was happening." Mira looked at him. Her voice was quiet, but strong. "They lie. They take people from weak places. They say we're not real. They say we don't matter. They use us." Dale felt cold. She continued, "If you don't help me, they'll take you too. One day, they'll say you don't matter either." Dale looked around. "I'll come back. I'll think of something." Mira's hand touched his again. "Please don't wait too long." Dale climbed back into the vent and left. Outside, the stars shone above the dark sky. But Dale no longer saw beauty. He only saw fire. He now knew the truth. The question was, what would he do next? Dale could not stop thinking about Mira. Her voice stayed in his mind. Soft and scared, please don't wait too long. He had never broken a rule before. But now, everything felt different. His hands were shaking as he walked through the halls of Unit 9. Every wall, every pipe, every hum of the machines now felt heavy, dark, and wrong. The next morning, Dale went to the control room early. He pretended to be checking the system logs. In truth, he was reading prisoner files. Each file told a quiet story, people taken from forgotten colonies, marked as non-living, and sent to this place to be used as fuel. He found Mira's file again. It was short and cold. Name: unknown, female, unique type, human condition, weak use, boiled down, scheduled. 2 cycles remaining, 2 cycles. Just 2 more days before she would be taken to the boilers. Dale closed the screen. He took a deep breath and turned off the log. Then, he walked back to his quarters, thinking fast. He needed a plan. He needed to get Mira out. But how? Later that night, Dale returned to Sector D again. He brought more food in a small water pouch. Mira was still sitting in the same spot. When she saw him, her eyes lit up, just a little. You came back, she whispered. I said I would, Dale replied. He gave her the food. Mira ate quickly, but this time she looked stronger. Her voice was not as weak. Dale sat close to the bars. I need to ask you something. How did you get here? Mira wiped her mouth. I lived on Colony 4. Life was hard, but we survived. Then a ship came. They said we were being moved to a better place. We believed them. She looked away, but it was a lie. They took the old ones first, then the sick, then the rest. I woke up here, in chains. Dale felt anger rise inside him. He had heard of Colony 4. It was small and poor. No strong defenses. A place the galaxy often forgot. Easy to attack, easy to steal from. And no one tried to stop them. He asked. No, Mira said. They said we were not important, not useful. Just fuel. Dale's hands clenched into fists. I'm going to get you out, he said. Mira's eyes widened. How? I don't know. Yet, he admitted. But I will. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the hallway. Dale jumped up. It was the heavy steps of a guard. Hide the food, he whispered quickly. Mira stuffed the wrappers under her blanket and sat still. A large alien stepped into view. He was tall and thick, with gray skin and sharp black eyes. His name was Gorvax, and he was one of the highest guards in Unit 9. He looked at Dale. Why are you here? Dale stayed calm, checking the heat lines near the lower wall. Orders from control room. 3. Gorvax stared at him for a long moment. Leave now. These units don't need maintenance. Dale nodded and walked away. But inside, his heart was pounding. Back in his room, he knew he had to move faster. Gorvax was watching. If he came again, he might search Mira's cell. He might find the food. He might take her early. The next morning, Dale pretended to work on the coolant pipes in a deeper part of the building. While doing this, he found a map of the underground tunnels. One tunnel ran beneath the cells and connected to an old waste port that hadn't been used in years. An idea started forming in his mind. If he could open the tunnel gate, maybe he could get Mira out through the waste line. It would be tight, dark, and full of danger, but it might work. That night, he brought Mira the map. We can try this, he whispered. There's a tunnel below your cell. I can open it, but you need to be ready. We only get one chance. Mira, study the paper. When? Tomorrow night, before your final cycle. Mira nodded. I'll be ready. The next day felt like the longest day of Dale's life. He worked slowly, double-checking every system. He made sure the cameras in Sector D would glitch at the right moment. He packed a small bag with food, water, and an old flashlight. At night, Dale entered the lower tunnels. He opened the small hatch under Mira's cell. It was narrow and rusty. The air was thick and heavy. He climbed up behind the wall and whispered, Mira. She was already waiting. Her eyes were sharp now. Her hands were steady. "I'm ready," she said. Dale opened the cell door using a copied code. Mira stepped out quietly. Together, they slipped into the dark hole in the floor and closed the hatch above them. They moved slowly through the tunnel. Every sound echoed. The metal floor was wet and cold. "I never thought I'd see outside again," Mira whispered. "You will," Dale replied. "We both will." But behind them, far away, a pair of black eyes watched the monitors. Gorvax saw something strange. A camera blinked out. A heat sensor changed. He smiled. "Let's see what our little technician is doing," he said, as he picked up his weapon and walked toward the lower levels. The tunnel was dark, cold, and narrow. Dale held the small flashlight in front, its light shaking with each step. Behind him, Mira crawled quietly, careful not to make noise. The tunnel was not made for escape. It was an old waste line, full of rust, old metal, and bad smells. But to Dale and Mira, it was the only way to freedom. "How far?" Mira whispered. "Not far," Dale answered. "We reached the end, and there's a hatch. I can open it. After that, we'll be in the lower supply hall. I have a hiding place there." Mira nodded. She didn't complain, even though her hands were scraped and knees bruised. She kept going. As they moved forward, Dale's mind was racing. What would happen if someone found the open cell? What if Gorvax noticed the camera glitch again? He didn't have much time. Finally, they reached the hatch. Dale pressed a small device against it and tapped the buttons. The lock blinked once, then twice and clicked open. The hatch lifted. Warm air hit their faces. They climbed out into a dark corner of the supply hall. Old boxes and broken parts were stacked around them. Dale led Mira behind a large metal crate and pulled a cover over them. "We stay here till morning," he said. "Then I'll take you to the waste shuttle. If we're lucky, it leaves before anyone notices you're gone." Mira nodded and leaned back, her eyes heavy. "Thank you," she said softly. Dale looked at her. She still looked weak, but there was something stronger in her now. A small spark of hope. He whispered, "We're not done yet. Just a little more." Far above, in the command room, Gorvax stared at the screen. One of the cameras had gone dark again. The heat sensor showed a strange signal near the waste tunnel. It was weak, but different. Gorvax narrowed his eyes. "The technician," he said. To himself, he called another guard and ordered a full check of Sector D. Then he picked up his weapon and started walking down toward the lower levels. He was not going to lose another unit, and he was not going to let a human fool him. Morning came slowly. Dale peeked out from behind the crates. No one was around. He checked his small watch. Only 1 hour left. Before the waste shuttle launched, he gently woke Mira. "It's time." They moved quickly but quietly through the storage hall. Mira walked better now, though she still leaned on Dale when the floor shook. The shuttle bay was close. When they reached it, Dale stopped. There it was, a small waste shuttle. Used only once a week, it carried trash and old parts to a burn zone in the nearby asteroid field. But if someone hid inside the trash bay, they could escape. "I'll open the hatch," Dale said. "You hide inside. Once you land on the asteroid, wait. A cleaning crew visits every 10 hours. You can steal a suit and walk to the beacon station." Mira looked at him. "You're not coming." Dale shook his head. "If I go missing too soon, they'll search the shuttle. I'll delay the alarm. I'll erase the camera logs." Mira didn't want to leave, but she nodded. "Don't die," she said simply. "I'll try not to." Dale smiled. He opened the shuttle hatch. Mira climbed inside and covered herself with metal scraps and cloth. Then the door closed. Dale turned to go back, but just as he stepped into the hall, he froze. Gorvax was standing there, his black eyes locked on Dale. His voice was calm. "You lied." Dale didn't answer. "You helped a unit escape, a Boyle unit, a worthless fuel bag." Dale's hands clenched. "She's not fuel. She's a person." Gorvax stepped forward. "Humans are weak. You speak of honor, of rights, but you serve, you follow. You are not brave." Dale said nothing. Gorvax lifted his weapon. "Where is she?" Dale looked straight at him. Gone. Gorvax struck him. Hard. Dale hit the floor, blood on his lip. But he still smiled. Too late. Gorvax stepped over him and opened the shuttle logs. He checked the trash bay. Empty. Normal. But he didn't know Dale had changed the logs. The ship was already flying. With a growl, Gorvax turned back. You will suffer for this. But Dale didn't care. Mira was gone. She had a chance. Gorvax dragged him away. Hours passed. The shuttle reached the asteroid field. It landed on a rocky surface. The hatch opened. Trash spilled out. Mira waited, hidden under the junk, not moving. 10 hours later, a small cleaning crew arrived. 2 workers in thick suits stepped onto the rock. As they worked, Mira moved quietly. She grabbed a suit, hid in the shadows, and slipped away. She walked across the rocky field to the beacon station. She sent one message. To Earth, from Mira. I escaped Unit 9. Many more still inside. They burn people. Please come. Then she waited. She did not know if anyone would hear, but she believed someone would. Inside Unit 9, Dale sat in a small dark cell. His body hurt. His mind felt weak. But in his heart, he felt light. She was free. And maybe, just maybe, this was only the beginning. Dale sat in a small, cold cell. The walls were metal. The floor was wet. There was no window, only a dim red light above. His hands were tied behind his back. His lip was cut. His head hurt. But in his heart, he felt something strong. Hope. Mira was free. That thought gave him strength. He didn't know if she had reached the beacon. He didn't know if Earth had heard her call. But she had escaped. That was the first step. Outside Dale's cell, footsteps echoed. The heavy sound of boots on metal. The door opened. Gorvax stepped inside, tall and silent. He looked down at Dale. You humans think you're brave, Gorvax said. But you are weak. Dale looked up. Not weak, just not afraid of the truth. Gorvax grunted. You broke the rules. Helped a unit escape. For that, you will be processed. Dale's heart jumped. Process meant death, boiled, like the others. Turned into energy. But Dale didn't show fear. If you kill me, he said, more will come. Earth will find this place. Gorvax laughed. Earth is blind. They don't care about you or this girl. No one is coming. But Dale wasn't so sure. He believed in Mira, and he believed Earth still cared, even if it was far away. Gorvax left, and the door closed again. Far away, on a small beacon station, Mira sat in silence. Her stolen suit was torn. Her hands were bleeding from climbing across sharp rocks. But she had done it. She had sent the message. Now she waited. Every sound made her heart jump. Every second felt long. She didn't know if anyone would come. But she remembered Dale's words. Just a little more. She didn't cry. She just sat and stared at the stars. They were cold and silent. But she believed someone out there had heard her call. Then, hours later, a sound filled the station. A soft beep. The signal screen blinked green. A voice crackled through the speaker. This is Earth Patrol Ship Delta 1. We received your message. Identify yourself. Mira jumped up and grabbed the mic. My name is Mira. I escaped Unit 9. It's a power station. But it's not a factory. It's a prison. They burn people for energy. Humans. Others too. Please help them. There was silence for a moment. Then the voice answered. Stay where you are. We're coming. Back in Unit 9, Gorvax walked through the control room. He checked the screens, the heat maps, and the logs. Everything looked normal. But something in his gut felt wrong. He didn't trust silence. He ordered extra guards around the base. He told the engineers to scan for strange signals. But he didn't know that a message had already reached Earth. Help was already on the way. And deep in the cells, Dale waited. He sat with his eyes closed, breathing slowly. If this was the end, he had no regrets. He had saved Mira. He had done what was right. Then, suddenly, a small explosion shook the floor. Dale opened his eyes. The red light above flickered. A loud alarm started to ring. Guards shouted in the distance. Something was happening. Another blast shook the wall. This time, The metal cracked, and smoke filled the hall. Dell smiled. "They're here, above the planet." A large human warship appeared in the sky. It was dark, sharp, and fast. The name Horizon Flame was painted on its side. Inside, Captain Wren gave his order. "Breakthrough. Target Unit 9. No delay." Fighter ships flew ahead. They hit the outer shields and broke them apart. Missiles struck the towers. Fire lit up the night. Inside the prison, prisoners screamed. Guards ran in fear. Doors opened, and smoke poured through the halls. Dell's cell door burst open. A soldier in a black suit ran in. "Human confirmed," the soldier said. He cut Dell's ties. "You're from Earth?" Dell asked, weak but smiling. The soldier nodded. "We got her message. We're here to finish it." They helped Dale up and gave him water. He could barely walk, but he pointed toward the lower levels. "There are more. Hundreds. You have to get them." "We will," the soldier said. "And you're coming with us. Down below, in the deepest level of Unit 9. The prisoners stood in chains. They didn't understand the explosions. They thought it was just another cleaning cycle. No one had ever come for them. Then, the doors broke open. Human soldiers rushed in. One by one, they cut chains and gave food and water. Some prisoners cried. Some just stared. One old alien held the soldier's hand and said, "We thought we were already dead." Gorvax stood in the main control tower, watching the war outside. His guards were gone. His machines were failing. He roared in anger. They should not be here. Earth should not know. But Earth did know, and Earth had come. Suddenly, the tower. Door opened. Captain Wren stepped in, calm and firm. "You are under arrest," she said. Gorvax hissed. "You have no right." "We have every right," Wren replied. "You broke the galaxy's peace. You burned living people for energy. You will answer for that." Gorvax ran toward her, but her team stopped him. He fell to the ground, caught and defeated. Hours later, Dale stood outside the broken building. The sky was full of Earth ships. The prisoners were safe. The boilers were silent. Unit 9 was no more. Then he heard a voice. "Dale." He turned. Mira stood there, wrapped in a blanket, smiling. "You made it," she said. "You too." He replied. They looked at the stars together. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. The sky above Unit 9 was filled with the soft hum of Earth ships. Bright lights flew across the dark air. Rescue teams moved quickly between the broken walls, helping the weak, the hurt, and the scared. Dell sat on a small metal box near the landing zone. His face was bruised, and his arms ached, but he was alive. And more important so was Mira. She stood not far from him, wrapped in a warm coat, talking to a medic. Her voice was stronger now. Her eyes still held pain, but they also showed hope. Captain Wren walked over to Dale. She was tall, calm, and wore black armor with the Earth symbol on her shoulder. "You did well," she said. Dale looked at her. "I only helped one girl." "That was enough," she replied. She sent a signal. That signal saved hundreds. You both did something brave. Dale gave a small smile. "What happens now?" Captain Wren looked at the burning remains of Unit 9. "Now we bring everyone home. Then we show the galaxy what really happened here." Inside one of the Earth ships, the rescued people sat quietly. Some were crying, some were sleeping. Others just stared ahead, still not believing they were safe. Mira walked down the row, handing out water and small food packs. A little child with green skin reached out and touched her hand. "Thank you," the child said softly. Mira smiled. "You're safe now." She sat next to Dale a few minutes later. "How's your head?" she asked. "Sore." He replied, "But it's working." Mira laughed a little. It was the first time Dale had heard her laugh. "Do you think people will believe us?" she asked. "They'll have to," Dale said. "Too many saw it. Too many were saved." Mira looked out the window. Stars moved slowly past. "I want to go back to Earth," she whispered. "I want to feel grass. I want to see the sun." "You will," Dale said. "And when you do, it will be real, not a dream." 3 days later, the ship reached Earth. The planet looked blue and green, full of light and clouds. The people on board watched in silence. For many of them, it was their first time seeing Earth. For some, it was home after a long time. The ship landed on a clean field outside a large base. Medical teams rushed forward. Reporters from different planets tried to speak to survivors, but Earth guards kept them back. This was not a show. This was real. Dale and Mira walked down the ramp together. The sun touched their faces. The wind brushed through their hair. They stopped and looked up. "We made it," Mira whispered. Dale nodded. "Yes, we did." Later that day, Dale sat in a quiet room, talking to Earth officials. He told them everything: how he found Mira, what he saw in Sector D, how the prisoners were treated, and what Gorvax said. One of the officers asked, "Why didn't you leave earlier? You could have saved yourself." Dale replied, "Because she said please, and no one else did." The room was silent for a moment. Another officer said, "We are opening a full investigation. Unit 9 wasn't the only station. There may be more. Then find them," Dale said firmly, "and stop them." Mira was also being asked questions in another room. She spoke clearly now. Her fear had turned into purpose. "They said we were not people," she told them. "They said we were fuel, but we were just forgotten." No one came until one man stopped walking past and listened. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just told the truth. And that truth was her. News spread fast across the galaxy. The story of Unit 9 reached every corner. Images of the rescued prisoners, the broken machines, and the faces of Dale and Mira were shared on screens everywhere. Some people were shocked. Others were angry. Some didn't want to believe. But many stood up. Protests started on big planets. People held signs that said, "We are not fuel. Shut them all down." And justice for the forgotten. The Galactic Council, once silent, was now under pressure. They called for new checks. They promised to search for other hidden stations. But Dale and Mira knew this fight was just starting. A few weeks later, Dale was walking in a quiet park on Earth. Trees moved gently in the wind. Birds sang. He sat on a bench and closed his eyes. Footsteps came near. It was Mira. She sat beside him and handed him a small bag. "Food," she said. "Not recycled. Real." Dale smiled and opened it. Inside were fresh fruits and bread. They ate in silence for a while. Then Mira said, "I don't want to be a symbol." "You're not," Dale replied. "You're a person, and people remember people." She looked at him. "What about you? What will you do now?" Dale thought for a moment. "I don't know. But I can't go back to fixing wires in a dark room. I want to help. Maybe speak. Maybe search for more like us." Mira nodded. "Then I'll help too." They sat there for a long time. The sun was warm. The world was quiet. But deep in their hearts, they knew the galaxy was waking up, and they would make sure no one was ever forgotten again. Many weeks passed. The story of Unit 9 was now known across many worlds. People talked about it in schools, on news screens, and in busy city squares. The name Mira became a sign of hope, and Dale was known as the man who said no when everyone else stayed silent. But both of them stayed away from the spotlight. Dale now worked at a center that helped freed prisoners. He fixed broken devices, taught them how to use new tools, and helped them find places to live. Mira spoke at small meetings. She told others what had happened and why they must speak up when something is wrong. She didn't want fame. She only wanted to make sure no one else suffered like the people in Unit 9. One afternoon, Dale entered the center and found Mira waiting for him. She held a small disc in her hand. "What's that?" Dale asked. Mira looked serious. "It's a message from a far colony. They found something." Dale's heart skipped. "Another station?" Mira nodded. "They don't know for sure, but people are disappearing, just like before." Dale stood still for a moment. "Then we have to go." 2 days later, they boarded a small patrol ship. With them were 2 soldiers, a pilot, and a medical officer. The ship flew fast, cutting across space like a silver arrow. Their destination was Colony 7R, a cold planet with mountains of ice and long, dark nights. It was once home to miners and workers. Now, most of the homes were empty. The air was quiet when they landed. Too quiet Dale stepped out first, his boots crunching the snow. Mira followed, wrapped in a thick coat. A local man named Tomel met them. At the gate, his face was tired, and his eyes were full of worry. "We started losing people 3 months ago," he said. "At first, we thought it was accidents. But then families went missing. Whole homes were left cold." Mira asked, "Did anyone report it to the Galactic Council?" Tomel gave a bitter laugh. "They don't listen to colonies like ours." Dale looked around. The place felt like Unit 9 cold. Forgotten and full of silence. "We'll check the power center," Dale said. The power station stood at the edge of the colony. It was large and made of dark metal. It looked too big for such a small place. Dale and Mira walked inside with 2 guards. The air smelled of oil and smoke. They went deeper into the station and found a locked door with strange signs. Dale pressed his ear against it. He could hear something, a soft hum, and voices. "This place is more than it looks," he said. Mira pointed at a small control screen. "Try that." Dale typed in the codes he remembered from Unit 9. The screen blinked. Then the door slowly opened. Behind it was a long tunnel. At the end were stairs going down, deep into the ground. The group followed the tunnel quietly. The deeper they went, the hotter it got. Then they saw them, people, chained, silent, eyes wide. Just like before. Mira gasped. "It's another unit." The guards stepped forward quickly. One called for backup. The other broke the chains. The prisoners looked confused, scared. Some cried. One old woman whispered, "Are we free?" Dale knelt beside her. "Yes, you're going home." The rescue teams worked fast. The prisoners were weak, scared, and confused. But the promise of freedom gave them new strength. One by one, chains were cut, and people stepped into the light of a new day. Dale and Mira stood near the entrance of the underground cells. Their faces were tired, but their eyes held hope. They had come a long way since Unit 9, and now they were helping others escape the same fate. A soft voice called Dale's name. He turned to see Tomel, the colony man who had guided them. "There is something you need to see," Tomel said quietly. He led them down a narrow corridor to a small room filled with old machines and blinking lights. In the corner lay a large, strange device, a control panel linked to many screens. Dale stepped forward. "This looks like the main control hub." Mira nodded. "If we shut this down, the prison will lose power." Tomel pointed to a red button. Covered in dust, "It's old, but it still works." Without hesitation, Dale pressed the button. A loud beep echoed through the station. Machines were down. Lights flickered and then went dark. The prisoners cheered, their voices filling the tunnels like a river breaking free. Back on the surface, a communication officer received a message from Earth. "Colony 7 are secured," she said. "Prisoners are safe. More stations confirmed. Investigation ongoing." Earth's leaders met quickly. They could no longer ignore the truth. The galaxy had to change. New laws were made to protect all living beings. Space patrols increased there. Patrols round forgotten colonies, and Earth sent teams to find every secret prison. Dale and Mira traveled back to Earth with the rescued people. The journey was quiet but hopeful. On the ship, Mira looked at Dale. "We saved many, but there are still more out there." Dale smiled. "Then we keep searching. We don't stop until every chain is broken." Years passed. The galaxy was no longer silent about the truth. People everywhere stood together to end slavery and hidden prisons. Humanity had shown what courage meant, not just with weapons, but with heart. Dale and Mira continued to work for justice. They spoke at meetings, helped survivors, and taught new leaders. One day, standing on a bright Earth hill, Mira looked at the stars and whispered, "Thank you." Dale stood beside her, smiling. "We did this," he said, "together." And so, the galaxy changed, not because of power or fear, but because one human said please, and another refused to look away.